most important thing, and where I see a lot of anglers go wrong, newcomers to the sport, is the feeding. So you see, I put them 2 initial lots in, sort of 15-20 maggots, and I put some more in. You've simply got to keep that feed going in. Certainly when you catch a fish, but obviously whilst you're fishing as well. I don't want to let maybe sort of 30 seconds to a minute go by without putting a little bit of bait in. Now, the other thing you can do as well, I don't want to overcomplicate it for you too much, you're just starting off, but you need to make sure you have another swim on the go. And it's fine if you found the same depth on the other side of you, that's absolutely fine. But with it being so hot, what I want to do is to feed somewhere in deeper water where the fish are going to start competing in shallow water, up in the warmer layers. I've got this depth down here, but what I want to do is get them competing in that shallow water down the middle. So again, put some more bait in. Don't have to be accurate, it's just all about getting that feed in. Once I get going, in sort of competitions, I'm like a windmill, I'm feeding here, there and everywhere. Should not have any signs this time, but it tells me that there might be a bigger fish there, or it could be that I've got 2 professional skyliners right over where I'm fishing. The main thing, as I say, is that feeding. You see how I'm feeding around my float. The other thing you can do as well is give it a little bit of encouragement like that. So just move your float out a couple of inches, things like that. The longest I'm going to leave it settled for will be 4 or 5 minutes. If I've not had any indications in that time, I'm going to come back, check my bait, go in again, or potentially go to a different part of my swim. I might go on the left hand side, or I might pick another rig up and obviously go up there, see if they're up in the water a little bit. So see, when I'm laying it in, if you can imagine that lake bed, it's veering off away from us. So what I'm doing is I'm flicking my rig out and letting it come back nice and natural into the banking, which is very important. I don't just want to drop my rig down, it just lands in a clump, it doesn't look natural. So we had a little dink then. Again, most of the bites you'll get, they should be nice and quick. Anything little and slow or anything like that is usually what's called a line bite. So it's signs of fish coming into your swim where you're fishing, but it's just after the loose feed. It's not found your hook bait. So you need to wait for it to go under nice and quick. If it goes slow, I tend to leave them, but anything quick, that's what I'm going to strike at. Go on the fishies. So you see, by constant loose feeding, it's getting them fish into your peg, and there's a good stamp, a decent fish. It's a lovely day on them. But the main thing as well is making sure, go on the swans, is making sure you're keeping other areas of your peg, baited up, ready for you to go. Because as soon as they arrive, they can go pretty quick, these fish, especially on days like this. So what you want to make sure you're doing is feeding sort of 2 or 3 areas of your peg. Let's get the hook out of this. There's a lovely F1, around about a pound. Thing to do with these is to put them back in your landing net and then safely release them. The worst thing you can do with fish of all sizes really is just to unhook them and throw them back. One thing that I will mention as well is a disgorger. You need a disgorger. Now what happens with a disgorger, let me show you. It's a big disgorger. So basically, if the fish, so this is the top of the fish's mouth here, you're getting in, Ellie, getting in. So if that's the top of the fish's mouth there and it's swallowed the bait down and you're like, how do I get my fingers on that hook, I can't reach it? That's when one of these little beauties comes into play. It's called a disgorger. It's got a little slit in the top there and then a thin narrow bit of plastic. So all we've got to do is make sure the line's under tension. You're putting your disgorger under, let me come this way, don't forget this. So you're getting your disgorger under there in that little slit. So remember, that's the top part of the fish's mouth. You're going into the fish's mouth. You'll feel a slight resistance. You just give it a slight push and that's it, hook's released. Oh yeah, and that's it. So don't disturb me, I want to go and catch some more fishes. But that is very important, actually. The other thing I'd recommend as well, I told you what I'm like, folks, I'll just waffle all day about fishing. You need to make sure, so if we just caught that fish, if the bait was still on, don't think, oh, bargain. You must change that bait every time, and then, because it's fresh every time, you're going to get more signs of fish, you're going to get more fish as well. Whereas if you just left that bait on, it's going to take you a lot longer to get a bite. Another little handy mate tip in it for you. Wise, I've not mentioned the lake, so obviously we're on one of the covies today. But I'd recommend as a beginner to get on willow or pine. You fish it exactly the same as what I'm doing, no different whatsoever, and you'll just have an awesome day. You'll get bites all day. There's not as many silverfish in here, whereas the beauty of willow and pine, there's lots of like skimmers and roach and there's perch, and then there's like big wobbly carp. There's some instant wing tench in there as well. There's some instant wing golden tench, but also you've got like crucians and that. You've got chub, you've got hide in some of them. There's all sorts. Whereas in these match lakes, it's mainly carp and F1s. But the other lakes are fantastic. You'll be getting bites a lot quicker. I mean, well, we're not doing too bad to be fair. We've been fishing, what, 8 minutes, we've had a couple of fish. But on them other lakes, you'll be catching fish a lot quicker, or you'll be getting bites a lot quicker rather.
Charles, out! Out! Oh.
Was he eating it?
Oh, it's gonna smell so bad. Rotten!
Have they rolled in it?
No!
Go on the fishes! Right, so very important when you do hook a fish not to panic. Just let the elastic do the job if you're on a pole or a whip. Obviously if you're where's this one going? Don't panic. If you're on a rod and line, obviously you're letting the drag do the work for you, but in this case it's the elastic. So let it do what it wants, let it tire itself out a little bit. Again, you've got to remember I'm coming from match mode, because I want to get these fishing dead quick, but I won't do now for you, I promise. And the other thing, make sure you feed. You've got to feed, because obviously you've hooked that fish in that area, chances are it's swimming with another 2 or 3 fish, so you want to make sure they're carrying on feeding. So just play it out there, because what these fish have a tendency to do is go under these blooming platform legs, which can be a nightmare. So play them out there to start with, until they start tiring. It's just funny.
Sound like you know what you're talking about there, Andrew.
Nice and natural. Pardon?
Sound like you know what you're talking about there.
No, I rang Jamie up before, asked him, and he's telling me exactly what to do. Now you'll notice on these poles, the whips won't have them, the pre-elasticated whips won't have them, but when you, where's he going? When you, say like, get a little bit more advanced maybe, you'll have what's called a puller kit on. Now what I can do to increase that, increase the tension in the elastic, is give it a good pull. And that instantly increases the tension there. So you see, I'm not panicking, but look where he wants to go. So he's ready for netting now, but one of the main things, and where I'm gonna have to swivel round on my box, I do apologise, turning me back to you. One of the main things where I see anglers go wrong is when they're going for net. You need to make sure that fish is ready to be netted before you actually reach in that net. Well, you can have it ready in your hand, but I like to keep my hands free so I can keep the bait going. I just love feeding. So he's getting ready now, so we'll reach for the landing net. But what I'm not going to do is have a stab at him. I want to make sure he's on the top of the water, and then I can go for him with a landing net. You see I'm keeping angles, I'm not going directly above him like that, I want to keep angles. Now what that does, that brings that fish up in the water like this. So if I was in, I'd have had him in, if it was in a match, I would have had him. But what I'm doing, see I'm waiting for him now. Once he has that mouthful of air, he's ready, and then we can go in with a landing net. Hooking of the fish. So let's come round here then. Oh, he's hooked perfect, let me bring that fish round for you actually. Obviously if it's hooked like that, but I want to show you Disgorger as well, all you're doing is grabbing the hook, pushing it down, that's it, it'd come out straight away. But Disgorger wise, so let's pretend that it swallowed it a little bit more. You're getting your Disgorger, make sure the line's under tension, you're putting the Disgorger into the line, sliding it down until you reach the hook. Easy, isn't it, folks? It's easy. And then make sure you're putting the fish back in the net and then releasing it via the net into the water, and then it doesn't damage the fish or anything then. The other thing as well, which I see all too often, is, you know, like when it's like a lovely red hot day and you're like, oh, I need a drink or I need a butty or something like that. So you get up off your box and you go and order it, and you order your drink and your butty, and you've left your gear in. What happens is, when you get back, your rod's not there or your pole's not there because a fish is blooming taking it off and it's towing around the lake. Please, please, please make sure that all your gear, if you're going to the cafe, like let's say now for example, when I want to go and get a brew, what I'm going to do is hook this pole back up, I'm going to rest it on the side. Also the other thing as well, there's lots of wildlife around here folks, you know, like ducks and blue tits and like chaffinches and things like that, and robins that love to come onto your side tray, pinch your maggots. So if you've left your maggots on your hook, you know, that sounds a bit wrong, that, your maggot dangling, cheeky. If you've left it out or anything like that, then obviously chances are the bird's going to eat it. It's got a hook in its mouth, and we don't want that. We're all about wildlife, aren't we? All about preservation of wildlife. So make sure your bait's off, your hooks them in the bottom of the pole, and then that's it. You know, store them away so, you know, if you like get some big angry flappy geese coming around or anything, they're not going to stand in your top kits and that. And that's it. You can just wobble off and get your coffee or your brew or your drink or anything like that. Okay then folks, so I hope you've liked what you've seen. If you want me to do any other of these instructional videos, I know I've gone like a little bit technical, but I just want you to get the most out of your fishing. But if you want me to do some more, then just let us know. Just give us a comment, or you know, go in the shop and speak to Logan or Babs or Bradders or anyone like that, and they'll let me know, and I can do lots more of these for you. Yeah!